What's happening with the Temple Mount right now should grab everyone's attention. We're seeing a big push.
This is the Temple Mount, the most fiercely contested place on Earth, because here the world's three biggest religions connect and collide. To Jews, it is the home of Solomon's lost temple. To Muslims, it is the noble sanctuary, the third-holiest site in Islam. And to Christians, it is tied to the life and final days of Jesus. But the real mystery is not what we believe happened here, it is what may still be buried beneath it. In 2023, Israeli scientists started scanning beneath Jerusalem using muon tomography, a cutting-edge technology that can see through solid rock without any excavation. And what they discovered challenged decades of archaeological debate. Because the findings provided some of the strongest evidence yet for the lost Temple of Solomon and even the long-disappeared Ark of the Covenant. So what exactly have scientists found under Jerusalem? Let's get into it. The Forbidden Ground. The Temple Mount is only 35 acres of land in Jerusalem. Yet billions of people believe this ground connects directly to God. Three religions, one mountain, and buried somewhere beneath it may be the most important lost structure in human history. According to the Bible, King Solomon built the first temple here nearly 3,000 years ago, using imported cedar from Lebanon, huge amounts of gold, and thousands of laborers. Deep inside the temple was the Holy of Holies, a hidden inner chamber that supposedly held the Ark of the Covenant itself. Then, in 586 BCE, the Babylonians invaded Jerusalem and destroyed the temple completely. But strangely, when ancient records listed the treasures taken from the city, the Ark was missing. Some ancient Jewish texts later claimed it had been hidden beneath the Temple Mount before the invasion, sealed inside secret underground chambers. And that possibility alone is enough, but there is one major problem. Scientists are almost completely forbidden from digging here. The site is administered by the Islamic Waqf under Jordanian oversight, while Israel controls security and access around it. Both sides consider the area extremely sensitive, and any attempt to dig beneath it is often seen as a threat to something sacred. They also involve the safety of the site itself. This ground holds the Dome of the Rock, Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the Western Wall, the last standing remnant of the Second Temple. All of these structures are thousands of years old. For centuries, the site remained out of reach for researchers. A research team in Israel was finally granted permission to examine the site. And the technology they used was so advanced that it could see beneath the ground without excavating a single grain of sand. Scanning the sacred mountain. In 2023, something began in Jerusalem that had never been done before. A joint team of physicists and archaeologists from Tel Aviv University started an experiment that avoided every restriction placed on the Temple Mount. The team carried out their work deep inside ancient Jerusalem's underground cisterns. One of the main locations was Jeremiah's cistern. The team had one clear goal: uncover what lies hidden beneath the Temple Mount without disturbing the ground, and finally settle centuries of speculation about what may be buried below. They used a technology called muon tomography, a system that uses cosmic particles from space to scan solid rock and reveal hidden structures underground. But to understand how this experiment actually works, you first have to step outside normal science. Every second, Earth is hit by invisible particles coming from deep space. These are created when massive stars explode across the universe. When these cosmic rays strike the atmosphere, they create something called muons. Think of muons as extremely fast, heavy particles, almost like upgraded versions of electrons. They can pass through buildings and even hundreds of meters of solid rock. Scientists used this property of muons here. When these particles hit empty spaces underground, more of them pass through and fewer are absorbed. That difference reveals hidden voids. And to capture this, the team lowered advanced detector units into the caves. Each machine cost over $100,000 and had to be carried down carefully through narrow, wet tunnels. At first, many of the detectors failed. The humidity was so strong that the moisture in the air damaged the electronics. The team had to build sealed protection systems and pump in dry air just to keep them running. Once they were stable, each detector started doing something simple but powerful. When a muon passes through, it creates a tiny flash of light. Over time, this builds a hidden map of everything above it. This same technology was used in Egypt's Great Pyramid. And now, it was being used under Jerusalem, one of the most sensitive places in the world. When the first real data arrived, strange patterns appeared. Some zones showed unusual particle behavior. Other areas showed shapes that were too organized to be natural. To analyze it, researchers combined muon data with laser scans and computer models, removing signals from modern buildings and surface activity to focus only on ancient underground structures. And as the analysis improved, the underground stopped looking random. It started looking structured. And what it suggested next was something no one expected to see beneath Jerusalem: what AI found underground. At first, the data looked meaningless. Each muon detector was producing millions of tiny signals over months of scanning. To the human eye, it was nothing but scattered points forming no clear shape. But the researchers did not rely on human eyes alone. They fed everything into advanced deep learning systems. The same type of technology used in medical scans, the AI was trained to read volumetric tomography. As the AI removed natural noise from limestone fractures and random underground gaps, clean geometric patterns began to appear. Angles that looked too precise to be formed by nature alone. Some of these lines met at exact 90-degree and 45-degree angles, deep inside solid rock, where no modern construction exists. Then came something even more unusual. These voids matched the ancient cardinal directions almost perfectly: north, south, east, and west, as if the layout was deliberately designed according to a planned architectural system. But the real shock was the depth. These structures were not part of later historical layers. The AI showed that they ran beneath known Roman, Byzantine, and Islamic constructions, meaning they were older than everything built above them. This was not a recent tunnel system or a natural collapse. It pointed to something far deeper in time, and the AI itself didn't interpret anything the way humans do. It had no bias. It didn't know what Jerusalem was, and it didn't care about religion, history, or politics. It simply detected mathematical patterns in density. That is what made the results so difficult to ignore. Even more unsettling, researchers compared it with known architectural styles from different historical periods across the region. Nothing matched. It felt like a ghost architecture, something built by an unknown system, in a time no one could clearly place. The closest comparison was not local history, but discoveries like the hidden void found inside Egypt's Great Pyramid, using similar muon scanning methods. That same kind of uncertainty, that same impossible structure hidden in stone, was now appearing under Jerusalem. And as the data became clearer, one question started to take over the entire investigation. Not what was down there, but how old was it actually? The city that shouldn't exist. For decades, a strong academic belief shaped the story of ancient Jerusalem: the minimalist theory. According to this view, 10th century BCE Jerusalem, the time linked with David and Solomon, was not a powerful capital at all. It was a small, weak settlement, more like a village than a kingdom. No grand buildings, no major temples, no organized state. But in 2024, that picture began to break. A major study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences brought new evidence that was difficult to ignore. Researchers from the Weizmann Institute and the Israel Antiquities Authority analyzed 103 microarchaeological radiocarbon samples taken from carefully controlled layers across ancient Jerusalem. These included seeds, bones. To understand the impact of this, you need to understand carbon dating. Living organisms absorb carbon-14 while alive. After death, it decays at a steady rate. Between 800 and 400 BCE, carbon dating hit a major blind spot known as the Hallstatt Plateau. Changes in solar activity disturbed carbon-14 readings, causing different centuries to look nearly identical. This created a dating gap of up to 300 years. Archaeologists could only estimate broad time ranges, but the 2024 study solved the problem. Using radiocarbon wiggle matching, scientists compared long sequences of organic layers with global atmospheric data and ancient tree ring records. Rather than isolated samples, they built full timelines and aligned them with Earth's atmospheric patterns. And what it revealed inside Jerusalem was unexpected. Nearly 20% of the samples clearly dated to the 12th to 10th centuries BCE. Not isolated traces. Even more important, these layers contained signs of major construction activity, including fortified walls, water systems, and administrative structures built earlier than many skeptics believed possible. Researchers were able to date a massive building to the early Iron Age with high precision. Step by step, the small village idea started collapsing. Because what the data showed was not a weak settlement. It was a functioning, organized urban center capable of planning, construction, and long-term development on a scale closer to a city-state. And once that reality settled in, the next question became unavoidable. What exactly was being built inside that city in the first place? The soil full of clues. In 1999, something happened on the Temple Mount that later became one of the biggest archaeological setbacks in modern history. The Islamic Waqf carried out a large underground excavation in the southeastern area known as Solomon's Stables, later turned into the El Marwani Mosque. Heavy bulldozers and trucks removed huge amounts of earth. An estimated 9,000 tons of soil, around 400 truckloads, mixed with garbage and broken debris. For archaeologists, it felt like a direct loss of the most sensitive historical layers in Jerusalem. But a few years later, a recovery effort began. In 2004, archaeologists Gabriel Barquet and Zaki Devira launched the Temple Mount Sifting Project. Their goal was to rescue whatever could still be recovered from that dumped soil. Since the original layers were destroyed, they used a method called wet sifting, slowly revealing tiny artifacts hidden inside the mud. Over time, more than 200,000 people took part in the project, and what they recovered changed the entire picture. Thousands of small artifacts began to appear. Burnt olive pits, animal bones with butchery marks, and pottery from the Iron Age. Some arrowheads matched during the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BCE. But the most important finds were even smaller. These carried ancient Hebrew inscriptions written in Paleo-Hebrew script. One seal read Immer, linked to a priestly family mentioned in the book of Jeremiah as temple administrators. Another read Ga'alyahu, son of Immer, matching names known from biblical records. These were not random fragments. They were part of an official administrative system tied directly to the First Temple period. And that changed the meaning of the entire dump. Because this was the first time physical evidence, even indirectly, came from inside the Temple Mount's own layers. It showed that during the First Temple era, this was not an empty hill. It was a working center of administration, religion, and daily life. Piece by piece, the soil stopped being waste. It became a record. And that record pointed towards something much larger than artifacts alone, the evidence of a lost kingdom. For a long time, the story of ancient Jerusalem was built on doubt. This region was too small, too weak, and too undeveloped to support a real kingdom. The idea of David and Solomon ruling a powerful state was more legend than history. Evidence from across the land began to tell a different story. One of the strongest pieces came from Khirbet Qeiyafa, the same region linked to the story of David and Goliath. Excavations revealed a highly organized settlement, not a scattered village. Its walls were built using a casemate system. This was not random construction. It required planning, manpower, and centralized control. The city looked like part of a larger state system. Even more striking, two identical four-chambered gates were discovered, a rare design that matched the ancient name Sha'arayim. Archaeologists also found something unexpected, a stone shrine model from the 10th century BCE. Its design showed advanced architectural details. For centuries, translators struggled with strange Hebrew terms in the Book of Kings, words that described Solomon's temple but made little architectural sense. But this model changed that. The features matched exactly. It suggested the biblical descriptions were not invented later, but reflected real architectural knowledge. Then came another layer of evidence, far from the hills of Judah. Archaeologists uncovered massive copper mining operations from the same period. Over 10,000 mine shafts and huge slag heaps showed industrial-scale production. It looked like a remote mining camp. But even here, the details told a different story. These animals were not feeding on desert plants. Their diet included high-quality crops and imported food from far to the north. This meant a coordinated supply chain stretching across hundreds of kilometers. A central authority managing food, transport, and mining operations. Even more surprising, remains of luxury purple-dyed fabrics and elite diets. Back in Jerusalem, massive water engineering projects like the Siloam system added more weight. Cutting through solid bedrock, building reservoirs, and managing water flow, step by step, a picture formed that was hard to ignore. An highly organized kingdom capable of building, mining, and governing on a large scale. And once that reality became visible, it led to a final question that tied everything together. What happens next? The muon scanning project in Jerusalem is no longer just about understanding the past. It is moving towards something that could change how history is studied. The Tel Aviv University team has already shifted from large, fragile detectors to a new generation of compact devices. Unlike earlier versions that needed dry, controlled environments, these new units can survive mud, heat, and extreme humidity inside ancient tunnels. This change matters because it allows scientists to place detectors in far more locations. The long-term goal is even bigger. Instead of one or two sensors, with multiple points working together, they can create full 3D muon tomography, a live, constantly updating map of everything hidden beneath the city. At the same time, the AI systems are improving continuously. Over time, the image becomes clearer, sharper, and more precise. This creates something unprecedented, a digital reconstruction of the underground world of 10th century BCE Jerusalem. And as the resolution improves, one possibility becomes unavoidable. If the scanned geometry ever matches the exact biblical dimensions of the First Temple's inner chamber, the Holy of Holies, it would become the closest thing to a direct physical footprint of that structure ever discovered. Jerusalem is not just an archaeological site. It is a religious and political fault line. Even a digital map could become politically explosive. That is why researchers are extremely cautious, because science is advancing faster than politics can handle. So now the question is no longer whether we can scan what lies beneath the most contested and sacred city in the world. It's whether the world is ready to face the truth. Let us know what you think about this in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible stories like this. We'll see you in the next one.